All right. Good morning. It is Monday, October 14th. I guess is it Thanksgiving here in Canada? I guess it is. So anyways, I usually start with a little ponderance and then I lose myself. I'm here today with Raphael. Actually, I didn't ask you how to pronounce your last name. Is it Weisman?
Weisman, yep.
Weisman? Cool. So before I get you to introduce yourself, I just wanted to say what I experienced when I first met you, because like just from my perspective, what I saw. So I was in Santa Fe for the Human Design Conference, and I got invited to an event that you were hosting. You were presenting and let's call it giving demos on some really cool stuff. And so there's about a dozen of us there, and it was the I might screw this up, but the emotion code and the body code, and you were explaining your process. You were using a website and content and a pendulum and drilling into a particular symptom or feeling stored in someone's body. And I watched you with about a dozen people zero in on something using a pendulum, then using magnets, and I forget what you call it, the meridian, and you would sort of clear it for them. And I remember you even saying you could use a set of car keys, but so we'll come back to that. But so that was really cool to see, and it was really validating, because I've had my own experiences, not with that approach, but with metaphysical stuff that I've been doing. And it was just kind of really neat to see it real time. But at the same time, the coolest part about it was I watched you do this with a number of people, and I could see the impact it was having on some right away. But the skeptic in me is like, someone stands up there, they feel on the spot, they need to kind of go through the motions of, oh yeah, I felt something. What really made it stand out is then there was a dog, and the dog went up, and this dog doesn't have that context of I'm on display and I should show, I should go with the flow. So I watched this dog, and I think the emotions were anger and forlorn, if I recall. And this dog was kind of really sweet but jittery. And then when you did the process with the dog's demeanor changed instantly, like just relaxed. And so to me, it was like I was already sold. But then when I saw that, I was like, okay, man, this is cool. So anyways, this is Raphael. And we're going to talk about this stuff today. I'd love for you to provide, some background, how you got here, and then we'll just see where things go. I have a very squirrel brain, so the questions might send us in any other direction, but I want to frame that in the beginning, because I think that was like, it's something to witness, to see it firsthand. So it's really cool.
Well, thank you. So, I love that.
Who are you?
I love that. It takes a non-human to actually demonstrate the magic of magic. Mm-hmm. It's kind of magic, I still, I do hundreds of clients clearing stuff, and many of them feel something. They almost always feel something afterwards too. They feel lighter, or they feel like, wow, I've relieved all this stuff. But there's still a part of me that wonders how you can just do a little swipe with a magnet over your head and shift a condition that's been bothering somebody for their whole life, or clear out something that actually has been bothering him for many lifetimes. So I am totally blown away by the fact that I've been able to do this, and I'm trained to do it. Not that it takes a tremendous amount. You can actually read the emotion code book and just start practicing on your friends and neighbors. In fact, that's how I started with this particular modality. I've also been a channel for a while, and I've done another process called HeartThread, which is equally magical, but in a very different way.
Mm-hmm.
So I still, the explanation is that when you rub a magnet over a credit card, you're going to wipe out the information. So in a way, we're using the governing meridian. I know we're jumping ahead to wipe out an imprint that's in the electromagnetic system, because we are energy beings. We're made up of electromagnetics. We have electrical system, magnetic system, and all these imprints have a magnetic or energetic imprint, and you can wipe them out. Just like that. So that's the most magical part of this, identifying what precise emotion or imbalance there is a matter of tuning into the person's subconscious, and that again is somewhat or muscle testing. I sometimes use this system with my fingers, and that gives us a yes or no. So it's like you're accessing the computer, the binary system of the computer that knows everything. Our whole database is accessible through accessing the yes and the no. So I don't know, maybe we need to backtrack a little bit because we're ahead of the game.
Well, yeah, because I know we're going to circle back to this, but maybe a bit of background, like how you got into this space. Where you always hear, is it, like mine personally, 3 years ago, I was an IT guy, computers, no connection to spirit. And now I'm the wooest guy I know. So something shifted for me, like, was it the same for you? Like I'm meeting people that were always switched on, but were hiding because they felt ridiculed. And now, power of YouTube and everything else, everybody's sharing, everybody's going, oh, I'm a little bit weird too, or these are the experiences I'm having. And we're getting the social proof rapidly now.
Yeah.
So, were you an early adopter? Were you a late bloomer like me?
I think I was always interested in metaphysical stuff. When I was probably 12-ish, I joined the Rosicrucians, through an ad in a magazine. There was no computers, there was no internet, no nothing in those days. So I got some newsletter and it said you can write off and you can, for whatever it is, you get, a weekly lesson or something, and you have to sit and look at a candle and meditate. So I always regarded myself as a hopeless romantic.
Mm-hmm.
I was always, looking for the green grass on the other side. So I think I had that propensity from a very, very early age. I kind of feel like, there was a resonance, you might say, with Joseph and his brothers, where he was the dreamer and they would all ridicule him, and I was the baby in the family. So I think I always had a certain level of sensitivity, but I also had a very strong attachment to science, to skepticism. I always needed to know. I always wanted to know. I always, was very skeptical about everything. I still am. That's why I'm wearing these two hats at the same time. There's the skeptic and then the believer, and they work hand in hand, because I also channel, and I wrote a book of channeling material, Path of the Spiritual Warrior, that has 13 voices. And I was actually asked to receive these 12 voices and then teach a class on them with very little background. I did some channeling, and I've always done like automatic writing, pretty much keeping a journal. So the voices came. Every day I was meant to receive a voice, and somebody would show up and say, I'm today it's me. I'm Apollo, or I'm Joan of Arc, and they would give me a message, and then I was meant to teach a class of each of these voices, and that ended up becoming the book. But I always questioned, am I faking this? Where does this stuff come from? Am I just making it up? How can I judge it? And then when I was doing sessions for people where they'd ask me for a spiritual reading, the words would just come, but I was always there. So it's been this very interesting, you might say, combination between spirituality and science, or left and right brain all working together, because often there'd be a particular word that I just couldn't get to the tip of my tongue. It was there, and I would have to think for the guides, well, what's that word? What's that word? And we'd stumble our way. So I found out in some way, or I came to the conclusion that this is a collaboration. And I'm not, I'm not a trance channel where I go into an altered state and I'm not there. I'm constant, it's like the words come, but I'm also there. And I think, oh, don't forget to talk about da 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 da, because my mind will kick in, and it's like a dance. So when I saw on somebody's shelf Emotion Code book, and I grabbed it and I borrowed it, and then I started playing with this, because there's all these codes. All these new books come out with this code, the Jesus code, the whatever code. So it looked, oh, this is interesting. I want to know more about emotions. I think I was feeling pretty stuck. And it took, it was in the old days. I don't know if you heard of co-counseling or reevaluation counseling, where people like pair off and they counsel each other and then they trade over. There was a whole system that I was part of years and years ago. And in fact, that kind of cracked me open, because I was pretty uptight, pretty shut down as a guy, growing up I grew up in South Africa, with apartheid and a very, very narrow Jewish-minded set of a world that was very, very boxed in. So I think, and I lost my daughter in a car accident in 1990. So, I had a lot of cracking open to be done. And I think the idea of this emotion code, what is this? And as I read it, and there was a chart in there, and they teach you how to do the muscle testing and how to identify trapped emotions. And I started playing with it. I started playing with it with people. And the one time I actually played with it with a dog. I was at a conscious festival, and this really skittish dog was there. It was like you couldn't keep it still. It wants to run away all the time. So I said, well, let me try this. And I had, the chart on my phone or something. And I think I had a magnet, or you don't have to have a magnet. You can use your hand. So I did the magic on the dog. And the dog became the most docile, quiet, happy little dog. And I was blown away by that. So this was always something I just played with. And I used to do this other modality called HeartThread, but I wasn't getting many sessions. It was like it wasn't very my world of being a practitioner of something and finding clients was not all that successful. So I had a friend who shared my office with me, And I found out she was an emotion and body code practitioner. And she was getting sessions all the time. So I thought, wow, this is weird. I need to do something. So I actually decided to sign up with Discover Healing and do the training so I could officially be an emotion code practitioner, because that's the first level. And I did a lot. It was easier for me because I'd read the book and I'd already been practicing that. But soon after that, I realized that, wow, I can achieve tremendous results just by releasing trapped emotions. But the body code looked like really, really complicated, really cool. And you could do so much more with it. So when they had a special discount, when they have 1 or 2 discounts a year, I signed up for that one and I did that training. And you'd go through a training, you go through the practices. Eventually, it becomes second nature to you. So I ended up doing the work with the body code, and I got listed on their website. And I started having the most amazing results with people. And what you witnessed is what I witnessed. People would actually feel a shift. They'd come in feeling heavy and worried, and they'd leave feeling light. In fact, they may need to go and have a nap because they feel so tired. But, it was a complete shift from where they were before. And then having somebody who had pain that all of a sudden wasn't there anymore. I had some of that also with the HeartThread work, where I could I could feel. I could tell them, hey, your shoulders are getting softer, and then all of a sudden the pain was gone. So I was finding out more about me, in a way, than all of this other stuff, because I think I started uncovering something about myself and why I'm here through all this process. Because I went from being really insecure and feeling like a fake to where, I just trust now. I trust what comes. I trust the answers when I need to know something. And it feels weird, but yes, and so more and more and more, I've got over the sense of doubt and the sense making it, and then I'm just making it all up. And now, pendulum, you would think it's a slow thing. Well, wait, yes, you gotta wait for no. But it's like in a second, I already know when it's a no, and I'm about to go to the next one. I already know it's going to be a yes, because it starts to just become automatic. So all of these modalities, the emotion code and the body code, and recently I trained in something called the belief code, they all rely on the process of connecting with somebody's subconscious mind. Because the subconscious knows everything about you. It knows what you're ready to release. It knows what you need. It knows what's going on. It knows what you ate for dinner 10 years ago on a particular date. It's like a personal Akashic record. It stores every memory that you've forgotten, especially when there's been trauma. I don't know how many clients I've had who've had something happen around the age of 8 that they have absolutely no idea what it was. But, you get one trapped emotion, you get fear, you get horror, you get terror, you get insecurity, vulnerability. They all start showing up, and they all say, well, this came in around the age of 8. And there's no recollection. So, it's hinting that there's some trauma that happened around that age that got there's some disassociation that we couldn't remember it because it was too painful.
Right.
And then you've got something called a heart wall, where some people just, they don't feel, they can't sense things. And it's like they had to build this wall around their heart that's actually built up of trapped emotions in order to keep themselves safe because their childhoods were so traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrific, some of the things people tell me that they've been through. So the subconscious is able to communicate with us through this method of yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you use a pendulum or you use muscle testing, and there's numerous ways to do that, to actually just get a yes or no, which allows us to then pinpoint a particular emotion, a particular imbalance, a particular misalignment in the system, a particular toxin. I mean, it's almost ridiculous, but my daughter has some neuropathy in her hand. She gets muscle cramps, and so I did. I've done a session or two for her, and it will actually pinpoint a particular bone in the wrist or in the hand, or a particular ligament or muscle. It's quite amazing how you can find the kingpin, and when you pull out that kingpin, the whole system collapses because it's all sitting on top of an experience that somebody had at the age of 2, where they, mama wasn't there and they felt lost and helpless. So whatever, it could be anything. And we're all human. We all have emotional baggage. We've all carried this stuff for lifetimes. So to have access to something that the person isn't even conscious of, and then find a way to actually release it, I love it. It's magic. So
yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sure.
yeah. So that's where what I'm doing now, and I'm wondering, because life is full of thresholds. You go through a threshold, you reach a plateau, it starts to build, and then all of a sudden you feel like, well, this isn't quite it yet. And then there's another threshold and another. So I wonder whether I'm, in that place, because I do the same thing for everybody. I twirl my pendulum, I swipe, whether it's at a distance or in person. And it's wonderful. And I love helping people. But I'm at the point in my own life where I'm wondering, is there a way I can help more people by doing less? So, I think we go through those phases. So let me answer your question.
Well, no, my thought is show like conversations like this and showing other people how is how you'd have a bigger impact, because they would then take and continue what you've done. And you'd say yourself, like, I went and found these things, but until we're aware of it and it gets distributed and there's the evidence of it, like, again, that session, like, I don't know how often you would do that in a group of people, or whether it's always private, because often these threads can lead to tears, or in a private session you probably accomplish more. Like, we were 4 or 5 minutes a piece, right? It wasn't like a 1 hour session.
Right.
And but just demonstrations like that, I think, going back to the beginning, you just need more dogs there, because the skeptic would be like, you know what I mean? Like I am I would have used the word pessimistic. That has recently changed to curiosity or playfulness. And that's a whole attitude shift. but it's still there. Like, you gotta prove it to me, right? And I've been wanting to say this for a while here, and I'll probably get this wrong, but like, science, magic is just science that hasn't been proven yet, right? And so, like, what you're doing feels like magic, but it's hard to believe. It's still hard to fathom. I can say from my experience that I came crashing through the wall 3.5 years ago the hard way with like a macro mushroom trip, in a shamanic weekend, and it was the first time I'd experienced anything like that. Like, never even smoked a joint, so it was just like blew my mind. But the metaphysical change that I had from that weekend, I went there having sleep apnea, I left, never used it again. My chest exploded. And then but that woke me up to, wow, how did that happen? And all the tools that I learned that weekend, I learned about human design, I learned about the power of plant medicine, I learned about this metaphysical book. I went on like a crusade for 2 years where, like, pretty much 4 or 5 nights a week I was doing mushrooms and digging out the metaphysical book, and I was flying back to my youth, like at 8 or at 6. And I got so good at it that I would actually go flying around my neighborhood as a kid, and I had no memories of my childhood also. Like, I literally would say I must have been disassociated because I just didn't remember anything. There were certain highlights, but just blank. But on mushrooms, all of a sudden I could be floating around Cobb Shaw Circle in Meadowvale, and getting up in this guy's front lawn and being like, no trauma there. But if I went next door, I'd be like, ooh, and something would, like, an elbow would twinge, and I'd pull the book open and look at elbow, and it'd be like, oh, such and such. And I was transported to 90 seconds before the memory I had about that location. I would have some sort of, but it would just leave consent to the medicine. And I was also getting really interested in hypnosis and meditation. So I started going down the hypnosis path. We have to give consent to the hypnotist because, you're hypnotizing yourself. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis, but you need to trust the person opposite you to let yourself get into such a relaxed state. So,
Yeah.
but then watching what you were doing, it was softer again, right? There was no, I have to trust this person and completely drift into my unconscious. And, he could be taking pictures of me naked and I'd have no idea, or so you think when you're in that hypnosis state. And in mushrooms, like, you take them, you're in it for 5 hours. You don't get to go, turn it off. Like, when the mushrooms are there, you're having a trip until it's done. But some of the things that I saw there just reminded me of, like, how profound it can be, where you just have a conversation, you're listening to your intuition with the pendulum, and then I don't know, it's just I have no doubt that it works.
Well,
And I just wish people could see that.
so in a way, what you're also talking about, though, is the energy of the heart. We're calling it the subconscious, but I also do this process called HeartThread, where we all connect through our hearts into a unified field. And then we receive messages from the cells that replace old ones. But the energy of the heart is actually the access point to quantum reality. So in some ways, we're calling it the subconscious mind. We could call it the heart. We could call it every cell of your body, your mind, because the mind is not just, the head or the brain. So, the terminology is flexible. Let's put it that way. When we're in the heart space, there's a frequency of love, there's a frequency of connection that can also affect people. And so one of the things that I've postulated as part of my blurb on my website is that my first prime directive or main interest is to help people open their hearts. Because that's the difference between living a full, happy, exciting, joyful life and just not being able to feel anything. And then the second thing is it has to work. Otherwise, I'm not interested. And I found the modalities that I practice, even with the channeling, sometimes I'll have people in tears when I'm channeling because the guides are hitting a place in their heart that they resonate with, or a deep experience of grief that is getting seen or recognized or allowed. So, those two aspects for me are pivotal. It has to be heartfelt. Opening somebody's heart will change their whole life.
Mhm.
And doing something that actually works, because there's so many modalities, there's so many different energy potentials, healing methods. So I like the emotion, body, and belief code because they work. I get to see the results. I've actually done and now we're mixing modalities. I've actually done a HeartThread session. In fact, on somebody from human design, where their life totally shifted from one HeartThread session. It like totally tuned them into who they really are and gave them a sense that all that stuff that was, heavy on their hearts was now gone just through one session. Now, often, people need more, especially when there's a lot of medical or physical issues going on. And you can only, it's like all of this work is like peeling away layers of the onion. It took us a whole lifetime to accumulate all that crap that now when we start peeling it all away, you can only do so much at a time because you have to readjust, you have to process and then integrate it all. So, the bottom line is I love helping people. I love the joy of seeing how happy they become, or how light they become, or how much of a difference it's made in their lives.
Mhm.
I guess, your idea about having, next time I do an intro to the belief or the body code or the emotion code, I'm going to say, bring your pet with,
Mhm.
because I love that idea. I don't do as many because, I'm a projector. Yeah, given for the human
Mhm.
design audience. So I used to spend most of my life initiating and putting myself out there and planning, events that only one or two people would show up at. So I like to work by invitation more when I can. But I like the idea of doing more of those kinds of introductions, because I don't just do the emotion code. That's what is part of the Discover Healing system is they encourage you to do presentations that are free, no more than 25 people, and that you use their slideshow.
Mm.
So I always like to begin with that because it sets the tone. It's official, and I'm not stepping on anybody's toes. But then I like to make it more exciting, more
Mhm.
interesting, because when you start looking at and the body code now is a book, so it's not like I'm sharing information that's confidential. It's not what's the word, proprietary. I mean, you should, I still recommend people don't play around with this professionally, that if they read the book and they try it on their neighbors or their friends, they're just doing it for fun or for learning and to help. But because the body code is so comprehensive, I find that it can take us into areas you would never have expected. So, finding that there's somebody who's been sabotaging your life, but you weren't quite really aware of it, identifying who it was, and then releasing that mechanism and sending them to the light. I mean, you would have thought that you could do something like that just with a pendulum and a magnet, and a bit of any intention and a bit of prayer. So, I find that going deeper and deeper, it's always like going down the rabbit hole, because if you find an imbalance in the body, there's going to be an association. And that list of associations is going to take you all the way down to something that you can clear. Otherwise, what's the point? You have to get to some cause or some association that is so powerfully connected with that heart palpitation or whatever it is. Now, obviously we don't heal anybody, we don't cure, we don't diagnose, we're not doctors. But we can help to release imbalances from the body or from the mind. We can help to clear out old mental patterns. And some of these are absolutely fast. It's like being a detective. But you're always using the person's subconscious to get the answers.
Right.
Sometimes knowing what to ask makes a difference. And sometimes using your intuition. So if somebody has inherited trapped emotion, right? If they have trapped emotion, but it's not theirs, it comes from an ancestor. So we can pinpoint how many generations. I think we did some of that at the demo.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can pinpoint how many generations ago, whether it was a male or female, on whose side, dad or mom. And then, because I have a little bit of the psychic side to me, I actually can get an image or an idea of what happened to that person, that actual ancestor. Why did they have terror? Well, because they were in the midst of a war, and I often get specifics. The same with something called a miasm, which is a inherited or it's a sickness that's passed down through the generations that can show up in the lineage. And very often, it's like a letter will come. Well, this is, what is it? What is it? It starts with a K. What K? And I start getting the pieces, the flesh starts to come onto the skeleton. And then I'll find like a part of a word and I'll do a quick search and it'll come up. Oh, kryptonite. So, I mean, that's just off the top of my head.
Example, yeah.
So it's wonderful because actually your psychic development becomes more and more acute as you work with the body code and the emotion code.
Yeah.
So I love
it. Well, I want to reiterate, like, it was gentler than what a lot of people. It was surrendering my phone, having this big bombastic weekend, and I remember my guide at the time saying, hold the gold. So the idea is, after you have like a big plant medicine ceremony like that, hold on to that information for a month. Don't just come back and start blowing stuff up, because in those 5-6 hours, you're actually seeing and experiencing so many things. You can see all the patterns everywhere, and you want to invoke change right away. And that can be hugely disruptive to your life and cause new problems that you didn't. But this,
yeah.
like, actually, like when I went up and you did me, I can't remember what it was now, but at the time, I was trying to do my process of like, okay, and because I think you said, I think it was age 8 or 7, and I was trying in my brain to figure out what it was. it wasn't until 15 minutes later I went and sat down. It clicked in. I knew what the moment was, but it didn't matter. What had happened was it felt, it was real. I could feel that familiar, because I've done it many times, that nub, that core wound, that knot, was identified and was cleared. And I think part of the for a lot of people, it's the integration with that information later, especially if you're hit with something big, that you have this, like, you go through every emotion. I went through the shame of, oh my God, I believe I let that bug me for the last 40 years. I can't believe that is how I showed up with other people trying to protect that. So therefore I was already guarded instead of open. And so I just loved how I could just see from experience, having done it the hard way so many times, that this was smoother, this was softer. It may not be so apparent because it wasn't a 4-hour kick in the nuts. When you're having hallucinations, it was, it would almost be hard to believe for someone else. Like, I could see a lot of people being very skeptical. And again, that's why it's like, bring the dogs, man. Show a dog reacting. So
Well, you know what? I started getting this in. Why don't we actually play with it?
okay.
That's so, because people won't know what we're talking about.
So I'm actually, I process stuff real time. I need to hit the washroom for a second. So give me, I know it's a live feed here.
I think that's a great idea. Why don't I open the share screen?
Yep.
When we'll come back, we'll both be relieved.
Perfect.
And we can start doing some play.
All right, I'll be back in a second.
Me too.
Real-time washroom break. All right, I'm back. I can generate some music in the meantime.
Okay, well, I've prepared the screen.
Okay, I'm here.
So, all right, so we're just gonna use you for now, if you're okay with that.
Open book, let's do it. Yeah, let's go.
You'll be my demo, my guinea pig, so to speak.
And
this is us again.
I thought, sorry, I don't mean to keep interrupting you. When I was at your thing, I thought you said you weren't sure if this would work remotely. Now, in my mind, I thought, of course it would, because I've experienced Reiki remotely and it's powerful. So, but I got the impression when you were there that you didn't feel confident that it could work remotely. But so I'm pleased to hear you say, let's
most
just
of my clients are actually on Zoom.
Okay, I wonder why I don't know why I heard that.
Well, it may have been something specific, but I don't remember that.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I'm always amazed that you can do something like this remotely. In fact, we do HeartThread remotely as well. So and channeling, I mean, all of the above. Let me, so this is called the Body Code, all right? Discover Healing is the company, the name of the organization. And this is their app. Because if you were to encapsulate all the information that's in this one app, apparently it would be thicker than the Los Angeles telephone directory, if they still have such a thing, because it encapsulates so much. Just a sec.
But I also want to ask you about the pendulum at some point too.
All right. Well, let's ask me now.
Okay, so I've been working with the pendulum a little bit. It started by being introduced to it at a hypnosis conference. And for me, I would just hold it still, but like in front of my stomach. And I actually was thinking, like, I wonder if that is like my sacral, like I'm getting this. Yeah, I would ask for a yes and no. My friend now does a lot of work with the pendulum. She was there actually that day. And watching you, I've never seen anyone spin a pendulum before. Like, to me, I thought it was like hold it exactly still and I could direct the energy. The part of me, the skeptic in me, was like, I'm watching you and now use the pendulum. And I'm like, I can see your fingers moving. So like you're spinning it that way. And in my head, I'm like, he's just making it turn right or making it turn left. But you said yourself, like you even know the answer practically before you start. Like there's an intuitive hit. So I guess my question is, like, are you spinning the pendulum and waiting for resistance to be felt in your fingers, or is it actually turning right and it changes directions? Because I would have sworn I saw your fingers doing that, and I'm like, okay, he's making it do that.
But
I don't understand how I use a pendulum.
My fingers are responding to the energy, right? This is just an extension of my energy field, or my whatever you call it. So I am not aware that I'm moving it. My body is moving it in response. I mean, I don't hold it rigidly and then watch it move, because here's my story. I mentioned my daughter, right? Did I mention that to you?
Yeah, the car accident.
Yeah. So after a year or so, I lost my smell. I still can't smell. Once in a while, I get a fragrance, but that means I don't know if food in my fridge is bad. I don't know, so I have learned to use a pendulum for many, many things in my life. Now, you have to be very careful that you don't impose your own will on something. You have to be neutral. When I'm neutral, it looks like I'm spinning it. I'm actually watching, I'm watching it right now. All right. There is some movement, but it's not conscious. So I have learned to use my pendulum. How many of this supplement do I need? What time? Should I buy this particular product? Should I? Is this food good for me? Is this food bad? Is it not any good anymore? Or can I still eat it? And I sometimes make mistakes. But I've learned to use this so rapidly that, like, for instance, when I go down the list, let's have a look at the emotion code. You can see how many layers we've got here. All right, so I've got 60 different trapped emotions here. So let's say I'm asking, jumping ahead a bit, is this trapped emotion in column A? And it's already started, it's already been going no, it's already been going counterclockwise. All right, so I'm pinning it down. It's in column 2 of row A. Is it anxiety? Is it despair? Before I get to disgust, I'm already feeling that the pendulum wants to stop spinning counterclockwise and it wants to move clockwise. So I know that the next one, because my hand, even if I'm not watching it, can actually feel it's slow down, stop, and then reverse direction.
Okay, that
So,
helped because.
but you have to be absolutely neutral.
Mhm.
Because if you have, does she love me? It's going to say yes. And you may get a kick in the pants because she doesn't. So, that you strong sense. I'm working with this person, it's not in their best interest or mine. You always have to be very careful using a pendulum or the muscle testing.
Okay.
They're quite equivalent. I often use after I thought, okay, so it was discussed, and then I clear it. Did I clear it? So I'll use this method here with my fingers. I can't open it if it's a yes.
Right.
If it's a no, it opens straight away. So you get, after you practice a lot, you end up becoming quite familiar with the feeling of things. So let's begin. This is what I know on the left side here.
Okay.
And I'd ask your the date.
Your video just stopped there for a second. There seems to be some sort of weird video thing going on here, so I'm just trying to troubleshoot on the side here. I think audio is working, so I'm going to assume everything's fine. But either way, keep going.
Well, I'm seeing both of us moving, and it did say start your video, so it may have frozen for a moment. We're living in a world where things change all the time.
Yep.
We had recently, apparently there was a mass coronal ejection, and some people saw the northern lights a few days ago down here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, which was kind of mind-boggling. I didn't see them because I had too much light pollution. All right, so here, now I'll put the date, and then I'm going to put your age. And the age is so that I can identify perhaps what happened at a particular age. So I
52.
use 52. All right, cool. Then I'll start. You can make up an issue, or if you have something going on. I mean, this can be public, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the funny thing is I've had such a profound week. Like, I'm energetically feeling really clean. So I like where. So I mean, I watched you figure out what a person was struggling with, even if they couldn't access it. So could we do that exercise?
I'm just going to put general.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, normally, they'd say, oh, my liver's bad, or I've got pain in this, that, or the other. All right, so I always start with a moment of silence.
Okay.
And that's to connect with a higher power, to make a connection with you. Us in to our guides and our angels and the energy of connection to something beyond us.
Okay.
Because, God heals, but we don't. Our bodies know how to heal, and the divine, you know the power of prayer. So we tap into whatever we can to help people.
Mhm.
All right, so let's see. So I'm going to, because we're not doing a regular emotion code presentation, let's start with a body code, because if there's a trapped emotion, it'll come up. So tell me, is there any imbalance we can address for Sean? Is it is there, right? Is it on the left side? No. Is there a pathogen, a misalignment? No, there's a nutrition or lifestyle issue.
Big shocker there. Okay.
Are we looking at sleep? So I'm getting that there's a sleep imbalance. Is that in any way correct?
I mean, yeah, 100%. I've even been meaning to reach out to a friend of mine's daughter who's a specialist in sleep, and I've been actually procrastinating and not even clear why. So maybe I was just waiting for it to be next on my radar. So
But thank you for being my little doggy.
okay.
All right, so we're getting a yes on sleep. Now, we can look into, often I'll copy all the information here, the explanations. It could be, we could pin it down, but normally, given something as pinpointed as this, there's going to have to be some kind of association that is either going to be the cause or another factor in why there's a sleep imbalance, right? So now I look, do I go back? Is it nutrition? No, it's home. I go back to home to look for an association. Is it on the left side? I'm getting a yes. Is it energy? Is it circuit or system? So I get a yes for circuit system. And now subcategory, is there a disconnection? Is it a system? Is it a body cycle or rhythm? No, there's something going on in an organ. If I'm getting a yes. Is it a stomach, spleen, lung, liver, brain? I could have said, is it on the left side? It would have told me no. Is it, let's see, it's on the right side. Is it the bladder? So we do have an imbalance with the bladder, or a misalignment, as they say. Now, I mean, it could just be that. It's going to take where we go next. Is there another organ? We're on organs. So while I'm there, I'm going to ask, is there another organ that's misaligned? I'm getting a no. Is it circuit system? No. So it tells me to go home again. Is the imbalance on the left side? Just a second. I'm in the middle.
Mhm.
In the middle.
This will be interesting. Definitely bladder has been a thing, so it's already interesting that he's picking up on that, and I haven't even mentioned it before. So.
Behind my seat. Just put it out, then just switch it on, hook it up, and then leave it hooked up. Sorry about that. Oh, wow. My neighbor.
So we're partway through this, but part of me wants to like either respond to what you're finding, or should we just like not say anything?
Part of you wants to respond.
Well, just Part of like the bladder thing, we can
Yes.
talk about that all day. And it is very, like, it's still something I'm struggling with. It's a lot better than it used to be. So it's already interesting that, like, I've given you zero data on the last couple of years. So it's like, to me, I'm already just like looking
Oh,
forward
are you saying we're on the money?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I was a little surprised not to see gallbladder as well, but
I don't know. We only begun.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I'm trusting in the process. So part of me didn't want to even let you know that you're on something, but
Well, I have to be, as I said, I have to be neutral. If
Mhm.
I think it's going to take me somewhere, I could, I could screw it up and take me there, and it wouldn't be the right thing. So I have to be very careful. But I do sometimes get, well, maybe, and sometimes you can actually check if there is an indication that something else could be out that makes sense. I could ask, is this an imbalance or not?
Mhm.
But let's just go with what we've got.
Yep.
Now back to, I think I came back to energies. So we're now back to home. The next association is on the left side. I'm getting yes, and I'm getting its energy. Is it post-traumatic? Is there an offensive energy? Mental?
It's having tech issues is in par for the course this week. Sometimes it's the best stuff. Okay, it looks like it's happier again. So
Right.
please
Let's
continue.
go back one step. Came to
Okay.
a reverberation. Now I've got 6 choices. There's one called seeking heart. There's another current symptom, sickness memory, organ communication, an emotional reverberation, and then a miasm, which I mentioned. Now it actually landed, and it's doing it again on seeking heart energy. Now, seeking heart energy is the energy of something missing. I like to describe it as like there's a hole in us that we're always trying to get filled. And it can lead us to addictive processes because we get a taste of joy, a taste of something, but then it doesn't last very long. So it's kind of the energy that can lead to addictions. It doesn't mean that you're addicted or that you're addicted to a particular anything. It doesn't have to even, you know, here, finding that what someone may be addicted to is not necessary, not part of the decoding, and having seeking heart energy does not automatically mean that someone has what would be classified as an addiction. But I think we all have that sense of having a hole in us that we need filled, especially if we've had trauma. So that's what's showing up as the next level of imbalance that's affecting the bladder and the sleep. So we just, again, I have to trust and go with whatever shows up. And that is not something I can clear immediately. So I have to go down the list of associations. Is there another reverberation? No. Is there another energy? No. So that means I go home. You're still seeing the screen?
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Yep. There's a bit of a delay on the stream, so it's just about 5 seconds behind.
All right.
That's normal.
So now I'm going again. I'm back home. Is the association on the left side? No. Is it a pathogen? So we actually have a misalignment. Is it system, common, chakra, skeletal, soft tissue? Is it an organ? So we're now back to an organ. Left side, no. So it's the right side, and yes, you were right. There's the gallbladder. I didn't push that one.
No, that's cool. Yeah, I was like, oh, isn't that interesting? He's right on target, and then just whisked by it. But here we are again. So
okay, so let's see. Where do we go? Is there another soft tissue misalignment? Is there another misalignment? No. Is there? Go back home. It says left side. Are we looking at energy? Left side. Post-traumatic, offensive mental, allergy. So we're looking at an emotion. Trapped emotion. Is it left side? Because they've got 6 different kinds. No, it's a common trapped emotion. So now we're at the bottom of the list. Here's the list of trapped emotion, and we're now down.
just even for context, let me think. Well, 72, 29. Oh my God, how bad is my math?
70. You were born in what?
I was born in 72, so in 29 years old, that would have been
90. That's 2000, and you born in 27. You said
72.
72.
Yeah.
72. That's 90. 2001.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a very big year for panic.
So here's what I do. You don't have to tell me. I just put identified. I always tell people they don't have to, if they feel embarrassed or there's something going on that don't want to share, that's fine. Everything's confidential normally anyway. But now we can clear it. That's the good news, because we've come to the bottom of this particular set. All right, we're going to clear it. All right, good. I don't know if you felt anything. So now I released energetically.
And a question for you, like if I had a magnet here, would it have been
Yes.
the kind of thing that would have been valuable for me to do on this end? Or
Sometimes my clients do it both, they do it while I'm doing it.
okay.
I think you could, because it's the intention. I don't think it has to be me doing it.
Yeah.
It would be interesting it's a good question. Let me see, magnet, because I do these education things. I'll ask that next time. It's a good question. But we've cleared it. I don't know if you noticed anything.
I didn't, like when I was in person with you, I don't know. But like what I want to say is like you've hit the nail on the head. So I know energetically attaching some of these words and energies to that time frame is all I need to start to clear it myself,
All right.
energetically. A friend of mine, Dr. Eleanor, has got me into Access Bars consciousness, and they have like clean language for clearing old energies as well from a subconscious level. And it's a series of words that don't make any sense, but the language is so clean, the mind mentally clears it. But really, at the end of the day, it's called POC and POD. So point of creation, point of destruction of that moment, that thread. And so I've kind of gotten accustomed to, even just by doing this, I'm just like, oh fuck, there it is, POC and POD that, and then it's almost by rote, it starts to integrate. Like
Cool.
so.
I'd love to know more about that. It sounds fascinating. But
Hmm.
now I can clear your gallbladder. All right, and all it takes is those few swipes. And I'm getting a yes, we cleared it. So I always, in order to keep track, I always at least mention that it's been cleared. Now the seeking heart energy. Gonna clear that. All right, cleared that. Now bladder. Gonna realign the bladder, rebalance the bladder. Good.
Okay, so that was very interesting. I didn't realize when you said you cleared it first that you were working backwards. In my mind, you were clearing all four at once. So the panic one I didn't have a sensation, but because I'll have to tell you why all this makes sense, but I was having a conversation yesterday with my friend Name about panic and sweating. And so there's a whole thing there. But so I just energetically have cleaned panic specifically over the last 3 days. When you went to the gallbladder and the heart, that was where I was having the sensation. It was almost like I've done really conveniently recent panic work that was less profound. But once you started moving through the other ones, I was getting a hit for sure. Like the thread was opening.
Cool. Well, we released the seeking heart energy. Did I just release the bladder? I don't think so. I'm going to clear the bladder now. But that's how we work. We go back up the ladder. Because we have to get to the root cause or to an association. that is connected so deeply that we can't clear it until we clear the association. Now we can clear the sleep imbalance. That's something I need to mention, which I normally tell my clients, but I yawn when I work. The more, the deeper the issue is, the more I tend to yawn. So
I felt a yawn internally, like I was keeping my lips closed, not just because I guess I try not to yawn because I usually get in trouble for yawning. So it's a
now it's coming out. So
Yeah.
I'm actually releasing with you as I do it. Sometimes I could just not stop yawning. So that's a demonstration for one issue that we didn't identify originally, but that's what your subconscious shared with us, that it's ready to release. Now we won't know.
It's like as far as timing and I don't know. Ask me in an hour. I already feel pretty good, so I don't know how much better I feel.
The best way we'll know is how you slept tonight. And then, of course, there's also processing, right? After you have a session, usually there's a little bit of time where one has to process and integrate all that. So, I think we've covered the bottom line. And I'm wondering, it may be, we could keep going for hours. I'm wondering if you want to do another time where it's a little more all integrated and not, you'd have a lot of editing and stuff to do. Now that up to you.
Yeah, I mean, I want to tell you why this is so accurate, because even the timing of it is ticking a bunch of boxes for me. So, can I give you a bit of background on how this hit?
It's your show.
Well, it's so interesting, dude. And for the most part, like you said, a lot of people, it's around age 8. And I think when you did the demonstration, for a lot of people, it was, somewhere between age 4 and 12. So what was remarkable today was age 29. That was a marked difference. And for the most part, and I'd already sort of said, like, I've done a lot of young trauma work, but I was still stuck. I'm not sleeping. I think I sleep well, but I don't feel rested, if that makes sense. Like I don't dream. When I wake up in the morning, I've woken up maybe once during the night. So many things. But age 29, so I would have been in Bermuda, and Bermuda was a very important time frame in my life. I went there at the top of my game. Very small country. I was very skilled in technology. It was such a small town. I was like everybody knows everybody in Bermuda. It's that small. But I was just capable of doing anything. But that was the year that I decided I couldn't work for my employer at the time, because they weren't working with integrity, and I couldn't work there. But my wife was pregnant and we had a baby girl on the way, and I'm in a foreign country as an expatriate with a work permit, and I got literally like crushed by this person and created a ton of fear for us at the time. It was also when 9/11 happened, and that was traumatic for obviously lots of people in the world, but in Bermuda, Bermuda is there's still tourism there, but it's primarily banking and reinsurance. So reinsurance and insurance companies. And in those twin towers, there was a lot of people that not that I knew, but I knew who knew people. Like that was remarkably close. Manhattan and Bermuda have big ties for lots of reasons. And Wendy was supposed to fly home 2 days after it to be the maid of honor friend's wedding, and she couldn't go. Like there was just so much going on at that time. And meanwhile, I wasn't sure where I was going to work. I was living in a country that my rent was $7,000 US a month in 2001. Like it wasn't a cheap place to live. I didn't know where I was going to work. And my former employer, who I basically put in writing, I'm not going to compete against you. I just can't work here anymore. He told me the only way you're going to work in Bermuda is if you become a hairstylist. Like I couldn't do technology. And so my whole career was stunted. There was this craziness going on in the world that was stressful. And I didn't have any control. I was so capable, but my hands were like fully handcuffed by someone. I lost control. And I didn't associate the panic to that. But that would have been the first time I think I didn't feel like I was capable of controlling the situation. And that it's so interesting. And that led to alcoholism after. It led to, I don't have a gallbladder because I had stomach surgery 7 years ago. And then, but generally when you get part of your stomach removed, other problems happen. So then my gallbladder had to be taken out. So, and I've had nothing but urinary tract infections for the last 4 years. Like I get them 2 to 6 times a year. And I keep being told, oh, that's really rare for a man. I had diverticulitis when I was 36. Like I've had nothing but intestinal issues forever. But the interesting thing is it did start shortly after that time frame. Like up until then, I was still a young enough person that I was able to abuse myself and the body wasn't kicking back. So it's just fascinating, like the timing of that and the reverse engineering of that, and then tying it back to sleep is like, it's awesome. So.
The gallbladder missing, actually that's interesting because the energy of the gallbladder is still part of your energetic body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's possible, I believe, by releasing energetically the imbalance around the gallbladder. I mean, you're still impaired without that function. But and you mentioned the alcohol, so we got the seeking heart there.
A lot of addictive stuff. Yeah.
I mean, so all of this ties in beautifully. I could not have orchestrated a more perfect session, and it's only one item for you. Normally, I go down 7 to 10 little imbalances with all of their rabbit holes. Some not so deep, but
well, and there's more to add there though, because that time frame was also the time frame that like I'm really struggling lately with what do I want to do? Going through all these changes, and so like what do I want to be? Where do I want to be when I grow up? And the question people keep asking is, when was the last time that you were truly happy? And it was around 2001, just before this time frame though. So it was, well, I still liked my job. I still respected my employer. The description of my life of being happiest was in Bermuda, this place called Miles Market. It was like a supermarket. And every single day I would just go there for 8:30 in the morning. I'd buy a cappuccino and I would sit down at the outdoor table on the patio, and I'd wait for my phone to ring. Because sure as shit, and I didn't have to plan my day ever. I was so in high demand. I was like the Batman of IT. my phone would just ring like, Sean, we need you for this. And so I would get to work with 6 or 7 different clients in the same day, which was so satisfying back then because I got the variety I wanted. People needed me and I was adding value. And then it all collapsed, all of it. And really at the end of the day, I became protective. All of a sudden I turned into Papa Bear mode. We had a baby on the way. So I started compromising on everything that I like doing, variety, not really knowing what's coming up for me that day. Like I love that. And it's amazing that it's come full circle with leaning into my human design. I'm actually designed to be this, just go with the flow, be an explorer. And I haven't been able to explore since
What
2001.
type are you?
So I'm a manifesting generator.
Okay.
Yeah. So definitely,
Yeah.
the whole.
Yeah, I'm not an expert. I just know enough. But wow. Well, what can I say? We're demonstrating the power, the magic. Actually, it's not magic. That's remember you mentioned the contrast between magic and science. It's actually miracle in science.
Miracle in science? Mm.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact context, but you were talking about how as skeptics, as those you can't accept a miracle. You were calling it magic.
Yeah, when magic becomes science. Yeah.
Magic actually has power because you use words, you use energy. It's different than miracle. Miracle is completely unexpected result of something that you would never have attributed any power to, that can't be shown scientifically until you show it. Whereas magic, has you've got the placebo effect, you've got the influence on the mind. It's anyhow, that's just a little. I'm also a Virgo.
No. So I've been calling it it's also the banister effect. I can't remember the timing exactly, but up until the 30s, no human being had run a mile in under 4 minutes. And
Oh yeah,
right?
Roger Bannister.
Yeah, so the belief at the time was, and think of our knowledge base, our experience base. People actually thought their heart would explode if they ran faster than 4 minutes. There was, from what I understand, a genuine fear that you could die. So this guy said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna die trying." Right. So he breaks this 4 minute mile, and then 36 people did it within the next 6 months, because they just had to see or hear it and go huh, that's worth exploring, right? So
Yeah.
the other thing I want to say is this gallbladder thing. I agree with you that the energy of it would still be there, kind of like a chakra or however you want to picture it, right? But I've done a lot of work digging into this gallbladder thing, why did it need to come out? All these things, and I dug into my metaphysical book. And gallbladder is where you store your piss and vinegar. This is effectively where it goes. And I have lost my gall since it came out. Since 2 years ago, I have lost what I used to call the eye of the tiger moment. So I don't know if you remember, Wendy and my wife and I talk about this all the time, but in Rocky 2, Rocky's wife is in bed and she's in a coma and he won't train. He's not gonna fight the fight because he's worried about his wife. And then all of a sudden she comes out of the coma and she just looks him in the eye and says, "Win." And then all of a sudden you just hear this bing, this bell, and all of a sudden he's back chasing chickens. And, I've lost that drive. I've been driveless since that gallbladder came out. And it's super interesting with all this stuff. It's just a massive amount of frustration that's in me that had no place to go. And I was overwhelming the gallbladder. And so now, it's helpful to hear or recognize that the gallbladder is still there. So I can get my gall back. I can get my drive back, but it really left me. There's no other way to say it. It energetically left me.
Well, yeah, I mean, you pinpointed that at age 29, you had a pivotal trapped emotion that had ramifications that affected you till this day.
Mm-hmm.
and it ended up as a sleep imbalance. But it's more than that because it changed your whole life. And you described a dramatic shift in your whole life experience that set you on a course that brought you to this moment today or yesterday where you had a sleep imbalance that you may not have anymore.
Yeah, I look forward to that.
Same with all of this stuff. So, but it also shows the power of what a trapped emotion do and how it can affect one. This person who had multiple trapped emotions, everything kept pointing to age 8. And his next assignment was to go see a therapist who can regress you so you can actually find out what happened. And it ended up actually coming up in his last day. He booked 3 sessions. And it ended up that, one of the last things he got was, I'll show you, under lifestyle, outside need. I think it was adjunctive therapy. It wasn't Bach flower or homeopathics. It ended up being, you need to go see a therapist, past life, or not past life, but a hypnotherapist who can actually regress you to age 8. So, that was the cycle that now he can actually, we've released the trapped emotions, but now he can regain the fullness of his life by being able to know what all that was about. So we pinpointed it for you. It's always a collaboration. That's what's so fun. When I get this, I love this one. This is the absolute most, this one here under mental image. I love this one because when I ask a person, is there an image that keeps recurring in your mind that has a negative effect on you? And people will come up with, oh, I remember my dad leaving, walking out of the house. I remember this, or there's an image, an actual symbol or a picture or a nightmare that when you clear it, it takes with it a whole giant ball of negative energy that's been around for so long. Getting kicked down the basement stairs or falling down. All of these images, when you pinpoint them and you remember that, oh my God, yeah, I've had that recurring image for so long, and it's associated with something negative, and it affects my life. And when you clear it and you change the image to a positive one, you can actually make a tremendous shift in somebody's experience. So we've encapsulated in one little imbalance, not so little, your associations, and shown how a trapped emotion can be the root of a whole series of experiences, and how we can clear it.
Yeah. I mean, I realize I'm a skilled traveler in this space because of all the work I did, but at the same time, like, it wouldn't have even mattered if I couldn't tie it together mentally. Like, this took care of cleaning the event. You know what I mean? Like, I gotta think, 'cause, I even said it, like, when we did it in person, I couldn't pinpoint what it was you found until about 15 minutes later. And then it was clear as day. And then of course now I can't even remember, and it doesn't matter because it's gone and it's cleaned up.
Right,
So I
right,
kind of wish
right.
I wrote it down. I feel like I told someone, so maybe someone will remind me.
Well, that's
Yeah,
why
it's remarkable.
I like to actually write this down as I go, because sometimes I forget what I just said the moment before.
Mm. I'm surprised to see it was sleep imbalance as the root of it, but like, or maybe that's the root. It's what I need to, what's going to clear next for me. And if so, I welcome it, because it is, sleep is never, as I say, I'm not waking up all night, but I also know I don't wake up rested. And it's been suggested to me many, many times that I'm probably not getting enough sleep. And as I say, I had sleep apnea, and then all of a sudden I didn't. But it doesn't necessarily mean that I was still getting good rest, right? At least I wasn't waking up every minute, which is what was happening with my severe sleep apnea at the time. But I
All
think I
right.
got used to just lying dormant, but maybe I wasn't sleeping. Maybe I wasn't dreaming. Maybe I wasn't experiencing that rest state the way others do. So it'll be very interesting to see where my sleep goes from here.
Yeah, well, that was the access point really to all this.
Mhm.
You know, if it wasn't, um, this is what your subconscious told us, where it told us to go. So that's the power of working with the subconscious in this way.
Mhm.
And it's beautiful because we're actually working with you, with the bigger picture of who you are.
Mhm.
It knows, could call it the higher self.
Yep. Well, and like when we're done this call, I'm going to be pinging my friend Name, because we were talking about panic yesterday and the day before.
Name
And
from Santa Fe,
yeah, yeah, you've probably met. Yeah, she was there actually that night too. So maybe I.
she was trained as a HeartThread practitioner.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, but we got talking about panic, and
she
um.
wasn't, she didn't come to that one.
Oh no. Okay.
I don't think so. No, I know Name well.
Yeah. But the panic thing, I we got to talking about sweating, and I was like, for some reason, like I feel like I've gotten cleaned house in a bunch of things I had, but still I would sweat every day, and to the point where I would always like wear dark shirts because I wouldn't want to show a sweat stain. Like I'm literally sitting still and still sweating, not stinky, just wet.
Right, right.
I was like really curious about that this week. Like, why is it still? So I go and read my metaphysical book, and it starts talking about panic. And generally, I'm the crisis guy. I'm the person that people call in when there's a crisis. I'm the one that's calm under fire. But the thing is, I'm naturally not actually calm. So I'm just very good at hiding it, masking it, presenting that I got my shit together, whatever it is. Um, so that like that panic inside me has never been recognized or appreciated. Like they did, I liken it to being a duck in the pond. That on the top, I'm just floating around, but underneath the legs are just like a madman. Um, I wouldn't have said I had panic in me until I read that 2 days ago, and then it actually made all the sense in the world. Um, which is incredible to me because I'm the crisis manager. I'm the person that people say, well, Sean will figure it out. So, but I never get to figure my own shit out. So.
I love it. I love it all. Wow.
Yeah.
And who knew where we would get to
Mhm.
when we
Oh, I
started?
love that, man. That was really fantastic. And I didn't actually think we were gonna like deal with one of my things today, but that's half of what this channel's been about, is just me figuring shit out on display. So
Yeah, it's fun, right?
yeah. Oh yeah. And
It's
it's
also,
worth it.
it's also nice to connect with somebody that you have no idea who they are or what they are, and
Well, and the timing's always fantastic. Very synchronistic. Again, I think had this panic conversation not occurred in the last 2 days, this wouldn't have landed quite as powerfully. Like it still would have, but you know what I mean? Like the timing's amazing.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
very, very interesting. So, um, well, we're at an hour and 40 here. I have energy to keep talking. and going, but I just want to check in with you and where you're at.
Well, I mean, I think, to be honest, it's probably enough for today.
Okay.
I would suggest we play again, that
Okay.
we talk about something completely different,
Hmm.
like the Path of the Spiritual Warrior.
Yeah, yeah, right. Your book.
Yeah, and or I mean, HeartThread, well, is a bit different. It's another modality. It also has power. You could actually ask Name. She could even do a session for you
Mhm.
if she's still into it. Or we could just blab about all sorts of stuff. I've got 79 years behind me, and I've had quite a life, interesting life. I've been at numerous crossroads, pivotal points in the history of the world. I remember when the Berlin Wall came down. I'd been in Berlin. I was in the Israeli army. I was um, lots of fascinating things in my life that I've done, and I was almost always at a place where something new was beginning.
Mhm.
I also knew quite a few people that were major innovators over my life that um, um, again, like I was there um, when human design came to Taos. Amanda and she filmed me talking about that. You met Genoa, right? You've heard of
I
him?
did not meet Genoa. I heard they were there though, but
Well, so he's my wife, my ex's partner now.
oh,
And
okay,
I
of
was
course.
I
Okay.
was I was the one who introduced human design to him through this woman Yola that I had met. So I always seem to be at pivotal moments in the history of our last 60 years or so.
Hmm.
But I like the idea of talking about the path of the spiritual warrior, partly because it's a very important book. I don't believe I channeled it for nothing.
Hmm.
And I'd like that material to be out in the world now, especially when people are hungry, people are looking towards the creation of the new earth and what it means. So I would say let's do another one. You're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
have
sure.
quite a bit of editing and playing around with this to make it smooth.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have so many questions, but so I'll leave them for next time. But yeah, I want to learn how to do this because I don't need any convincing that
Well,
it works.
it's so simple. Buy the book. You can get
Yeah.
a lot of people. A guy this morning, I gave him a free little demo, and he had listened to the audiobook of the emotion code. But I like the idea of actually having the book and playing with either the muscle testing or the pendulum and the chart. Find a few dogs or cats or birds or whatever's,
Yeah.
uh, and get your own results. And then if you want to become a practitioner, all it costs is a bit of money and then the practice of doing the actual program.
Hmm.
And it always can seem daunting at the beginning, but after a while, it's like this guy once talked about what it's like the first day at a hamburger joint where you're working and you're left, got two left hands and you don't know. And then after about 3 weeks, you're flipping them, turning around and catching them in the air because it's become second nature to you.
Hmm.
So if you do that, um, with a modality like this, you just do it, practice it, do the exercises. You know, you have to do 10 or 20 people, give them free sessions, and you start seeing results, you know, and it starts to grow, and you think, wow, I can do this. And then before long, you're doing the body code and then the belief code. I mean, I don't get that many belief code clients because the body code is so comprehensive.
Mm.
And a lot of people, you know, a lot of stuff goes back down to trapped emotions.
Mm.
But then I find that if you've been working with someone for a long time and you're not making progress, then it's possible that there's a belief system underneath that's keeping them from being able to actually incorporate the results properly.
Right. Is the
And
belief code? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
and they're always, you know, innovating. They're always working on something new. They're always getting feedback on how to improve things. So it's a growing, and there's thousands of practitioners around the world.
Yeah. I feel like I've heard of it before, but like just had no idea what it was until I met you and saw that. And then it just very powerful reminder today too. Is the belief code like for addressing limiting beliefs about oneself? Is it primarily about confidence, like separate from trapped body emotions, or?
Let me show it to you. Well, maybe it's too much. Um,
Or maybe just like what is the difference between the belief code and the body code?
Belief code works with, oh, look, this is it. You've got 6 different categories. All right, this is the big one, survival. I didn't realize I was tuned in already. So this is one that comes up a lot, you know, came up for me. So there's a bit of explanation, but essentially what you're looking at is a list. And again, you're dowsing all of this, right? So I've come up with the fact that this person or I has a belief system around survival, and the subcategory is around worth, right? And now I've determined, did I? Let's go back there. Survival took me, home took me to survival. Survival took me to worth, yes. So I have a belief in my own lack of self-worth, essentially. Here's a whole list of statements. So I douse it. Is it odd row? No, it's row 2. I don't have what it takes. That belief popped in probably around 2 or 3, or could have been 7, you know, whatever. Somewhere or other, that statement got stuck in my head as a belief, right? So I, right now, I'm just listing it. Okay, I have an issue around survival, and under survival, I have an issue around worth, and here's a particular statement. So I keep going back because you've got levels of belief. So under basic, there's different kinds of belief systems. It's like a tree. So right now, I'm looking for all the negative programs. One of them says, I don't have what it takes, right? All the other guys get the girls, but you know, I'm always left out. Then I've done 3 or 4 of these, you know, it could be in any of those categories. When there are no more, I go deeper down. So what are my limiting beliefs? I take it goes to the same categories, a same whole bunch of lists of statements. And I'm looking at those statements until I get to, okay, I've right now, I'm just listing all of them. Now I'm going deeper. I actually have a faulty core belief. I'm no good, or I'll never amount to anything, da 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 da. Then underneath of that, you may or may not find an actual faulty core identity, which is, more than just the belief. This is who you actually believe yourself to be. So once I've cleared all that stuff, I go back and I then go through each one of those that I discovered, and I'll identify what is the positive statement that will counter that. So I am just as important as everyone else. And so you clear the old pattern, you reinforce the new one. If necessary, you may not have to. You can just sometimes just clear it. And I've done that, and I do that for all of those other, until I'm done. Then I'll go back to the body code, because there may be associations with all those beliefs that I have to clear out in order to really make the shift. So I discover that, I have a toxin. I have an excess of cold. I don't like cold. It bothers me, da 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 da. It's a Chinese system. So I clear up all of the associations, and then I'm done. I've changed all the beliefs. I've made sure there's no associations that are going to sabotage all that work. And then I defrag the mind. All those spaces that I've just created, I need to condense it all back so that there's no big gaps. I wipe out all the gaps. Otherwise, it takes a lot longer for the process to settle in. But again, there's processing time after you clear out all those beliefs, because you have to actually begin to make it part of your life. So that's how the belief code works.
Okay,
you can see why, if I've been working with somebody who's got a whole set of what we're looking at here, and they're not making progress, they're still not sleeping, they still have a problem with, with drugs or whatever, then it may be that underlying all this stuff, there's a belief system that's keeping it all in place. So going to the belief system, which is actually, it's a lot like the HeartThread work. We're replacing negative conditioning with positive, life-affirming stuff. So it just gives us another tool to help people to get their lives back, to find bliss, to find joy. In the end, what we really want is to be happy, to have deep satisfaction.
So did you say, I think you said earlier, you don't generally go to the belief code because the body code kind of seems to take care of business? I thought it was very interesting.
When a client comes to me, I always ask, usually, let's say they book 3 sessions, right? First of all, I'll get, okay, they need body code. Or if they have a heart wall, I need to clear their heart wall first before we can actually go deeper. So I'll ask, does this person need emotion code? No. Body code? No. Oh, they need belief code. But normally, when I on my scheduling program, I have belief code, emotion code, body code, belief code, HeartThread, or channeling, or hands-on. where I put my hands on people and I help relieve pain.
Mhm.
So I can do any of those depending on what the person needs. So I use my pendulum to say what is the best modality for them. And if they're open, the second time they come, I'll ask again, and it could be different. Or they could say, I really feel like I want to experience a channeling. And then we'll go into channeling mode. I record the session. I call in the guides, and the guides, share what they see for that person, and then they answer their questions. And they're all of these modalities are equally powerful in their own way. I like the fact that I now have a bigger toolkit, bigger arsenal of tools, because one thing might be more appropriate. I've got one guy who almost always only wants a channeled session with the guides, or he often pays for a session for people he loves, and he'll send them to me. And he almost always says, "Would you please do a channeling for them, the guides?" But he's starting to realize that there's also some benefit, because I've done work with some of his clients or friends where I've actually done body code, and it's made a difference. So I always check with the pendulum,
Right.
what would be best. And then, of course, if they've read a bit and they have a preference, I'm always happy to comply.
So this question's popped in my head 3 times, so I'm just going to ask it. If you were sitting near somebody and you could sort of sense that their vibe was off, could you do this exercise without them even being aware, and could you help them? And the reason I ask that is that sure seems like, like there's consent, right? Their soul, they need to allow it to happen. Because I've had this conversation several times with different people. Like there's a fellow I talked to that he does Reiki, but he combines Reiki and hypnosis. And he talked about like sometimes he doesn't need consent from the person verbally. He can tell that their soul is open to it energetically. So like something like this, you could be sitting next to someone at a coffee shop and be like, this person looks like they're struggling. If you're in aura with their energy, with the pendulum, like I gave you some information as we went. I didn't really give you a lot. You just asked my age, actually, and then you work backwards. And so, knowing that we got to that age 29 thing, but if someone energetically beside you, you could tap in, and then, you were doing the meridian thing with your own head, right? And
Right. You don't have to have a magnet. You
and
can
you
grab a
don't,
magnet from your fridge. You can also just use your hand. Sometimes I'll use my pendulum. I actually carry a pendulum with me. And it's a special piece of rose quartz, and sometimes I'll use the pendulum to swipe, or I'll use a piece of selenite. But your hand is magnetic. You have, your whole body is magnetic. So,
Mhm,
but to answer your question, I never work on anybody when I don't have permission.
mhm,
I bless people. I send them healing. When I meditate, I have a list. I send healing light and love to them. I envisage, when I get to the green energy of the heart, green energy is healing energy. You could send out healing energy, and I send it directly to people who are on my healing list that I care about. People that I know are sick, that somebody says, "Would you please pray for them for me?" But I will not do a session on someone unless I either have permission from them or their parent, if they're a minor, or if they're an animal, also. There has to be a willingness, an engagement of the person. They may not be appropriate for them, for you to interfere in their soul path by clearing out something that was put there or they chose in order for them to have a life lesson, for their soul to grow. So I never, and I try to do that also with HeartThread. When I do a group session, there's a group of us every Tuesday that actually come together to work on a person who signed up for a HeartThread session. So we do a group HeartThread session, group of practitioners, where each one of us brings our own little, what happens is you get a message from them, like from their subconscious or their heart or their cells, that they need to say a particular sentence. So they say, my life is blossoming. And that's because they're feeling depressed. Or that's what pops in, right? That's the thing that we ask them to say. And so the very verbalizing of that statement shifts their consciousness, where they've taken an old issue, something that they've been trained to believe, or they were always told you'll never amount to anything. So you say, I've come here to fulfill my mission in the world. Everything I do is profound and perfect and helps the creation of a new earth. So you actually get those words and you ask them to repeat them. So they're imprinting a new pattern into their cells. So we do this as a group. We all take turns, to come up with, each of us has our own particular style. And often somebody will ask to be doing a session for their son who's in jail, or for somebody in their life who's having a hard time, who's very sick. And I always require that they have permission to act as a proxy or a surrogate for somebody else. So I think it's better to err on the side of caution, because you don't know what their soul's pattern is.
Yeah, that's been an important lesson that I think I've already kind of come to. But I get excited thinking that, people don't have to suffer as much, but they ultimately their soul is here for a human experience. And yeah.
Right. And we also have to be careful, we're all I've suffered tremendously, in inverted commas, suffered by being the knight who's always going out of my way to fix everybody and take care of everybody, and not only do I ignore my own needs, but I'm doing it sometimes not out of this great desire to be of service, but I'm doing it to make myself feel better, so that I feel that I have some value in life, when underneath of that is a level of insecurity and a sense of lack of self-worth.
Yeah.
I'm coping to that because it's also been part of my experience. So you can go around helping everybody, and every once in a while, when you step back and say, maybe I'm just doing this in order to feel good, and that the motivation is a little tarnished, is a little tainted. So it's about, I like every morning when I do my meditation, I always ask to be a humble and clear channel for God's work or whatever, for God's love. So we have to be careful of our egos. You know, people say that I'm a healer, I'm a healer, I'm a healer. We're not healers, we're just agents of a divine power that everyone has to heal. And we can help people, and we love to, you know, and it's a mixed bag. So I'm always careful around those things. I'm going to watch my ego like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I liken it to being like more like Batman, less like Superman. Superman would fly in and fix everything, and got to the point where Superman was unbelievable. Like he could fly around the earth and reverse time, and literally nothing could defeat Superman because he was ridiculously powerful. Batman waits for the bat signal. He's not just throwing himself in everyone's business. And I used to wake up homeless people to say, "Could I buy you a coffee?" And they'd be pissed off because I woke them up because they're a human being and they were resting. And then I would, in the moment, feel indignant, like, "Hey, I'm offering," you know what I mean? Like I was trying to fill a hole that was not mine,
totally.
So, right. So but it's been a real, coming back to worth and worthiness, and that's where that all.
So so the bottom line is always self-love.
Mhm.
When you truly love yourself without judgment, then you can love others without judgment.
Mhm.
And I mean, I understand we want to help. There's a altruism to that as well. There's also a sense of injustice that we want to correct.
Mhm.
If we're here on this planet today carrying some amount of light, then we're here for a purpose, and we're gonna want to serve. We just have to be able to find balance in everything.
Mhm.
And that's 79 years. It took a long time to figure to actually integrate some of this
Yeah.
stuff, and make mistakes and piss people off um, and piss yourself off because what about me? I mean, it's an enjoyable. It's quite a ride when you can laugh about it, especially when you can laugh about it.
Yeah, well, that's all you can do at the end of the day. Let's wrap it there. That was amazing. I definitely want to meet again and dig into all sorts of stuff. But I like looking at my list there. I'm thinking like, do I want to go do some work? No. Do I want to play my drums? Maybe. But I think I'm gonna go and have a nap. I feel like I need to integrate.
Well, actually, that's one of the most recommended ways of processing. After my sessions, people often feel tired, certainly feel lighter, but very often they just can't wait to get home and take a nap because that's how you're integrated all.
Yeah. Yeah, the little panic monster in me is like, no, you've learned something, apply it. You find, but no, I gotta go have a nap. So,
Well, that don't contradict each other.
mm.
So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to write here two things. I think just for the heck of it, part of this is also to get the word out.
Mhm.
I'm going to put my website, and I'm also going to put the source of this modality.
Right. Yeah.
And because I want to honor that, I want to honor them. What else was I going to put in here?
The Spiritual Warrior. Do you have a website for the book or?
No, actually, I use my same. I've got a long way to go in promotion and learning what how to optimize my whole presence.
I can help you with that. So we can trade some energy if you want.
Oh, I'd love that. I'd love that. I want my websites. My whole life is in that website. It's too much, and anyhow.
Yeah,
So
we can
it's
put it together.
available on Amazon. So also on my website, and then I have a newsletter list. So people can sign up through my website to be on there. And I've got a YouTube channel with my channels.
Oh,
Um,
right on.
I've got the whole caboodle. In fact, I'll probably do another channeling for the full moon.
Okay.
I I just did a recent one um, that it talks about. It's called a window, a golden window. It talks about this period between now and the elections in the U.S. as this golden window. I also would like to rename it the wild card because it's all about the wild cards that could change everything.
Mhm.
So I want to run that again. I think I put you on my newsletter list. I don't know if you got
Yep.
one there.
Yep. I got a copy the other day.
Good.
Yeah. Well, let's stay connected. We could do this again. Can definitely I can help you at least strategize on getting the word out. Yeah, and if you want to take a copy of this and put it on your own YouTube channel, like you could do the condensed, like where you actually went through the process. Because I don't know how many times you've demonstrated what it is you do, like as a working example, because that might be valuable as well. But
Well, I'm not too sure because I don't want to go against my agreements with Discover Healing.
mm,
Normally, I should just do the emotion code, and usually I can use that as a springboard. But when we did them at Human Design with Jonah, that was 3.5 hours. Well,
mm,
all of them went on really long because I was giving everybody a little demo, and that's more fun in a way. So I don't think I have a short enough one that I can do.
mm.
I did do some webinars where I did a free introduction online to the emotion code, and I also did an introduction to energy healing, and another one which was ancestral healings. I did them anyway.
Mm.
I was on this woman, Loren Gady's network, and I do conversations with her, kind of like I've done a few of these kinds of interviews.
Mm.
And the last one I did, we had 700 and something views, and it was actually where I did a bit of a demo on her as well.
Mm.
So I love doing these talks because they're fun and stuff comes up that I find fascinating. I can just talk.
Yeah, I'd say it was like it crystal clear. That the ordering of it was, yeah, it was powerful. And just it's super interesting. It ties back to sleep because I would have argued with that previously,
I
but
mean,
sleep is,
I could put on my website a sample of our session without your name on it.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like you're welcome to do it what you want with it. So I'm just saying that might be useful. Like I think
But
you can see the levels, right?
my technology is not all that great to edit this whole thing down to, this particular segment. But if you did it, I would love to. I'd be happy to trade you for sessions for your,
Okay.
for your support and help.
Okay, well, we'll figure that out. I think I need to nap because I gotta build up my energy for a Thanksgiving dinner tonight with the in-laws. So I'm gonna go get that nap in.
So you have Thanksgiving a month early.
I guess we do. Yeah, you guys call it something different. Today's a holiday in the States, isn't it?
I don't think so. I don't know.
I thought it was.
Let me-
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, it's technically today's a holiday in Canada. So
All right. Well, you enjoy it,
okay,
and I look forward to our next connection.
yeah, that was awesome,
All
man.
right. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay. And what I do here on my end is I click a little button that plays a video.